Namaste all. A warm welcome to BB Raman webinar series. First of all, I would like to wish you Shubha Navami and Shubha Dashmi. Today we have in our studio ICA's ICA's Chandigarh ICA's chairman, chapter chairman Shri Dhirendra Wadhwa, our resource person. Welcome, sir. Our guest, our
Thank you.
Namaste, sir. Our guest, Honorable Shri Chari, sir, ICA's National Vice President. Welcome, sir. And we have in our studio Madam Vijay Lakshmi from Chennai chapter. Welcome, Madam. Namaste, Madam. Now we will start our prayer. We will start with the prayer. Madam Vijay Lakshmi will sing the song. Yes, ma'am. Ready, ma'am.
Okay. காட்சி தந்து என்னை ஆட்சி செய்வாய் அம்மா கல்யாணியே கற்பகமே அற்புத காட்சி தந்து என்னை ஆட்சி செய்வாய் அம்மா உடல் மண்டிலே நின்றாடும் அம்பலவாணருடல் காட்சி தந்து என்னை ஆட்சி செய்வாய் அம்மா அங்கம் ஒரு பாகமாய் அமர்ந்த என் தாயே ஆனந்த மாமலையின் தேமதுர
Thank you very much, madam. Now, today our resource person, ICA's Chandigarh chapter chairman, Shri Dhirendra Wadhwa sir. He is a techie who has flair for IT. Being an expert in business idea, has been business advisors associated with ICA's for 12 decades. He served in different capacities of the chapter and chapter chairman since 2018. ICAS has conferred him with the title Jyotish Kovit for his contribution in astrology. So today, the sir will now take over the session. Yes, sir.
प्रणाम to everyone. सभी गुरुजनों को प्रणाम. Today we will be taking up the topic as suggested and checked by Gurujans on astronomy. Let me share these slides. I'll try to use English as much as I can, but there'll be a little bit of Hindi involved, so please bear. We are here for the Sarguru Dr. B.V. Raman series. Happy Dashera to everyone. As suggested by Sarita ma'am also, the topic for my presentation today is astronomy of Vedic stories, whether they are just the mythological stories or is there any science or some kind of scientific records in it. Right? So we'll go with few stories and the science behind it, and we'll discuss about it in today's presentation. Starting with the Guru Pranam. Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. With the blessings of all the Gurujans who have taught me since my childhood in ICAS, pranam to all my Gurujans. So starting with the topic, what is astronomy or Khagol as commonly called today? When we go with the general definitions that are going round in the social media or online or otherwise, is that astronomy is a natural science that studies celestial objects and the phenomena that occur in the cosmos using mathematics, physics, chemistry. Cosmology is another branch relating to physics and metaphysics that deals with the nature of universe. Then it is also called as astrophysics or astrometry, depending on the type of study that we are doing. Right? The textbooks, the modern textbooks and the modern science papers that are being written today, they teach that astronomy is a science, but Bharat, not just India, but Bharat as whole, has nearly done nothing for it. The other thing that comes up is astrology, generally today called as Jyotish. And the definition that is being given is that astrology is a kind of divinatory practice or a pseudoscience since the 18th century or even before that, which is studying the impact of celestial bodies on the human nature or the human events, right? Even while discrediting the science, it is being written that Western astrology is one of the oldest astrological systems that is in use, and the root of it can be traced to BCE 17th to 19th century from Mesopotamia or Greek or Rome or the Islamic Middle Eastern world, even in Western and Central Europe. Right? The name for India or Bharat is missed in these lists also. Also, it is said that prior to enlightenment, astrology was being used. It was a scholarly tradition used in learned circles for close relation and to check the impact of astronomy, meteorology, medicine, alchemy, etc. But with the enlightenment, with the advancement in science, it lost its status, its legitimate scholarly pursuit in the end of 19th century. But for me, this cannot be the definition of Jyotish. So, what is Jyotish, or a mix of Khagol that we have been studying for our Vedic sciences? So, Jyotish as a whole studies the movements, the placements of all the celestial bodies in the multiverse, not just the new universe, but the multiverse. So, we have different lokas here, we have different multiverses, dictums, and their descriptions in our scriptures. Not just the movement and placements, but all the phenomena that occur in the cosmos, including the multiverse or on the earth. And the study is done using all kinds of calculative methods, not just physics, maths, or chemistry. Plus, these phenomena are analyzed for all types and kinds of impacts, not just the phenomena, but the objects, the celestial objects that we are talking about, phenomena in the multiverse, in the cosmos, and on the earth, and not just the physical bodies, the earth, but the beings on the earth, that is, the living beings, the animals, the birds, the humans. The impact is analyzed singularly or for the group in the form of growth, environment, emotions, lifespan, behavior, patterns, abnormality, singularly, inclusively, or exclusively. And Jyotisha also, after all those analyses, it suggests the ways to keep the inclusive balance of life of the universal setup, not just on Earth, but the universal setup. For me, that is Jyotish or Khagol as a whole that has been taught in the Vedic times and continues in the memories of Bharat. Just to give you an overview what we'll be talking about today. So Hanuman Chalisa has a line that says Jug Sahasra Yojan Par Bhanu Lilyota Hi Madhur Fal Janu. So it tells us the distance between the sun and the earth, not just a mantra or a chalisa, but it has scientific information also. Or when we praise Lord Ganesha with Gajananam Bhut Ganadi Sevitam Kapithya Jambu Fal Charu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shok Vinashakarakam Namami Vighaneshwar Pad Pankajam. So, to praise Lord Gajanan, there is a line which says Kapithya Jambu Fal Charu Bhakshana. But when we see the pictures or when we depict Lord Ganesha, he is depicted with lots of modak or laddus, right? The sweets. But the mantra says that he wants or likes to eat kapith and jambufal. So what are these kapith and jambufal and why is it there in the mantra? While the depiction says lots of sweets around him. So kapith is ketha or the elephant apple or the curd fruit, its name are. The vegetable name is Feronia lemonia, right? About jambufal, that's commonly known here as jamun or the black plum, Malabar plum, Java plum. It has many names. The vegetable or the fruit scientific name goes as Sigerium humani. And what are these? These are natural objects or the fruits that we have found mainly in India and the surrounding countries or areas. These are good blood sugar controllers, right? These are preventive medicines for diabetes. Among other health benefits, the main thing is they are used as preventive blood sugar or diabetes fruits. So, even though Sri Ganesha's depiction is with lots of sweets, he likes to eat these fruits so he can consume as many sweets as he can. So these are medical information also, not just simple mantras to praise Lord Ganesha. This is the grandness of our Vedic sciences, our mantras. Another overview is it is said that our classicals or our scriptures doesn't contain any kind of science. So there's a line from Rigveda 545. It's Yattva Surya Swabhanu Tamsa Aditva Asuraha Akshetravit Yatha Mugdha Bhuvanani Adhiyudhya. So this says, as O sun, when you are blocked by one whom you gifted your own light and Rahu, then the earth gets scared by the sudden darkness. So there's an information of eclipse. How does the eclipse occur? Another one with again from Rigveda 10:22-14. It says that even if earth is devoid of hands and legs, it moves, right? So the Western science came to know about in 1500s or 1600s that the earth revolves around the sun, but our Rig Veda itself says the earth moves ahead and all the objects of the on the earth also move with it and it moves around the sun. This is a page photo from Atreya Brahmana. 2.7 and 3.44 degrees of it says that the sun never really sets or rises. Though it is said the sun sets in the east, rises in the west, but our scriptures clearly mention the astronomical movement of sun, that it never sets or rises. When you think that it is setting, it has reached the end of the day, it has reached the end of the round globe edge. So it inverts itself, that is, the movement of the earth converts in the drishta form, it seems to move on the other direction. So everyone on the evening side below becomes the evening side and the day comes to the forefront where the sun moves, or actually the earth's rotation. It is saying about that the earth is rotating, so the sun actually never sets, it never actually rises. Whichever face of the earth faces it, gets the morning, the other one gets the evening or the night sky. So coming to the stories, or commonly called as mythology today, is there any astronomy in these stories? So let's take up few of them. So I'll just talk about the science first, right? Similar kind of thing from Rig Veda 8.9.17. This shloka tells us about that Usha has been called to wake up Ashwin Kumars so that they can wake up, they can arouse, and they can take the sacrificial food, that is the हवन का जो भोग हम कहते हैं, the भोग of the हवन, the sacrificial food, right? So coming to the science of a story, we know that Earth rotates on its axis, not the polar axis, but another axis which is tilted. Simultaneously, it revolves around the sun. The rotational axis of this Earth has a wobble. Due to that wobble, there's a circle of 360 degrees created at the axis poles, which is covered in approximately 28,000 years, right? This very wobble is what we call as iron. It is being taught here in ICAS. The part of it, or the yearly part of it, is called the Ayanansha, right? Now there's another tilt which is between the poles, the south pole, north pole axis, and the rotational axis. This tilt is about 23.5 degrees as of current, but this tilt moves from approximately 21 degrees to 24 degrees. And the tilt, due to that tilt, the axis revolves around the poles, and this circle takes around 41,000 years. Another point is that there are sunspot cycles on sun. Everyone know today from the newspapers that there are solar storms. There are storms that occur on the sun when high level of heat or the energized particles are released from sun and they move towards the planets, right? So we hear about it in the newspapers. Some kind of sunstorm is going to happen. There may be disturbances in networks, there may be disturbances in the electricity, and all kinds of news come up. But what actually happens in these storms, or due to the rotational axis wobbles or the tilt of 23 degrees, is that during this 11-year spot cycle, these storms increase and decrease in the numbers and in the intensity over a period of 41,000 years cycle, because the tilt changes. So different kind of different places of the earth are tilted towards the sun. What happens in these storms is that charged particles, which are very huge number of electrons and protons, I should say, sorry for the slide, protons, these are electrons and protons, are discharged from the sun. The solar winds carry these discharged and charged particles of electrons and protons towards the planets. But we all know that our Earth has a magnetic field, right? So the flow of this magnetic field carries these charged particles towards the magnetic poles of the Earth. Just to clarify, I'm talking about the magnetic poles, not the north pole or the south pole, or neither the poles of the axis. It is the magnetic field which is slightly away from these poles and axes, approximately 400 kilometers ka there's a distance, right? But when these are carried towards the magnetic poles, from there these charged particles start hitting the atmospheric levels. They start coming into the earth. When this happens, they start burning, and a shower of light seems to appear in the skies. This is called aurora or the polar lights, commonly known as the northern lights and the southern lights. These can be seen near to the poles. Some this kind of illumination occurs at the poles, or sometimes a rainy lights come up. This is called aurora. Now, when we look at the global pictures, we see that these lights or these discharged particles, due to the magnetic flow, are concentrated towards the magnetic poles. So most of it is used and destroyed near the poles itself, creating the aurora lights. Most of the time, very little or nearly nothing comes towards the equator or on the mid earth parts, right? Over the period of time, various cave paintings have appeared, which could be dated back up to 30,000 BCs, in China, in Spain, in Japan, nearly all over the world, which have proved that the countries or the areas even nearer to equator have seen such aurora lights. So if they have seen such aurora lights, that means there has been astronomical events or the intensity of storm where these particles were released in so much numbers that the magnetic field of the earth couldn't control them, or couldn't condense them or clear them up towards the poles. So the modern recorded high level of such an event is 1859. It is also called as the Carrington event. It can be checked over the net. This is the latest modern recorded event of such a solar storm. And why it is important to mention it? Because this Carrington event, that is called, happened in September 1859. Records of it is also uh, presented in the newspapers of that time. In New York Times, a paper on it was also presented in the Royal Society in 1861. Now, what was this Carrington event? This Carrington event was that when such a solar storm occurred, during those times, telegrams were being used. So generally, one or two words only could be transmitted at a stretch, and the telegram lines which were there in US had an approximately 2 lakh kilometer line stretch. During this event, what happened was the storm caused so much of release from the of electrons and protons from the sun that when they reached the earth, the magnetic field could not carry all of it towards the pole. So the light or the aurora lights or the impact happened even till some parts of China. Now, what was the impact was when this such a huge quantity of electrons entered the atmosphere, they ionized everything. The electric poles, the electric lines of a telegram got ionized. So for several hours, the operators of the US telegram service, they had turned off their electricity or their batteries, and still they could use the telegram. They could send the messages, and the ionization was so high that with the use of generated electricity, they could send only 1 to 2 words at a stretch. But during the ionization from this aurora, nearly whole sentences could be transferred at a stretch. So this was the kind of power that the lines had due to the ionization. There was so much light that even in the evening time there was no dusk, so the people could read newspaper while standing in the open. So there was so much light at the time, right? So this is another picture on the north pole and the south pole areas, where the in general the aurora happens, but in the Carrington event such kind of high release was there. Nearly 100 years back, even Bal Gangadhar has mentioned these impacts and these astronomical happenings, though he used the layman form languages and he used the information from our scriptures. Now, a recent paper has been published in the science journal Nature, and it has also been presented in Royal Society, which shows that before this event, the biggest one that could be recorded, that is actually recorded in the Nature. Why in the Nature? Because it is recorded in the ice layers in Antarctica and Greenland, and in the French Alps. They have found some ancient trees which could be dated back to nearly 10,000 years back. And in the rings of those trees, they could find the records or the impacts of such an event. The event or the record that they received, they analyzed it, and the dating back showed that nearly in the year 7176 BC, there was another very high level of solar storm that happened. And what the scientists say is that such the event, the aurora that happened in 7176 BC was nearly 10 times higher or stronger than what happened in 1859. So we can only imagine what kind of ionization must have occurred in the environment of Earth, what kind of energy we must have received, what kind of light or the duration of light must have happened. And this is not a one time event that happens. This happens every few thousand years, right? Even the softwares like the planetarium softwares and the different softwares used today by NASA and the researchers for astronomical matches matched this event to nearly 7200 BC, approximately a 20-year differential based on the different softwares being used. Below are the tree rings that were used for the analysis. We can see, right? So, why this scientific thing that I'm saying all year around? Because there's a story that we must have heard, every one of us, that during a time when Sanjana married Sun, the sun god, she could not handle his heat. Now, who is Sanjana? Sanjana is the daughter of Lord Tavastar, most commonly sometimes equated with Vishwakarma. Now, Sanjana, who married Lord Sun, herself is a goddess, but she is the goddess of clouds and dawn or twilight. She married Vivaswant, a form of sun god. When she could not endure the event, intense form and the energy or the heat of sun god, to escape the heat, she substituted herself with her reflection Chaya, transformed into a mare, and then went ahead. Some stories say to her father, some stories say to do some japa. Right? Upon discovering her absence, Surya had his radiance diminished. He searched her to bring her back. When he found that she was there in the form of a mare, he took the form of horse, and the both of them, the duo, had a son of Ashwini Kumars. Right? Now, Sanjana has more sons also, are notable deities which include Yama, Yamuna, right? Vivaswat Manu, one of the Manus, and Ashwani Kumar and god Revanta. Chaya, who was left by Sanjana, also had a progeny with a son known as Shani or the Saturn, the god of karma and justice, then Tapti, Vishti, and Swarni Manu, another Manu we know of. The story, the mythological story goes that Sanjana, yani ki, or the clouds in the dawn and twilight, they left. They could not bear the heat of sun. And why the heat of sun? Well, because there must have been a very huge solar storm. So the clouds could not be seen due to such a huge solar storm. There was no dawn, no twilight, no dusk. So Sanjana went away. The clouds disappeared. The light electrons won't diminish. So there would be no dusk. There would be no dawn. When Chaya was left here, so the story can be again depicted into astronomical conditions and impact, but I won't be taking up it here. I'm just talking here about the Sanjana and the sun story. So when the sun diminished, when the sun went towards the correct side of the revolutionary part, or the earth moved to the current part of the evolutionary part, when the storm subsided, the heat decreased and the clouds came back. Dawn, twilight, dusk, it all started happening again. So Sanjana came back again. The time when Sanjana came back or the clouds came back is depicted with the rising of the nakshatras Ashwani Kumar, stating it or connecting it with the birth of Ashwini Kumars. These stories, just as I said, that Jyotish tells us to remain in harmony with nature, it gives us the implication that these solar storms will keep on happening. But instead of creating too much heat, we should start with the natural habitats. We should deploy more of greeneries, more of greenhouses, not just the greenhouses as for the agriculture or for our parks, but the houses that we are creating should be greener. There should be more greenery. There should be more green cover, because that is what will save us from such storms when Sanjana will go away from sun. So our scripture, with a very simple story of a couple, depicted a very big astronomical event, not just the event, but all the record of what happened when, where was the earth, where was the sun, against which backdrop of nakshatra was the sun or the earth present. So a complete scientific astronomical record within a very simple mythological story. Another scientific research being conducted today. So the science says that Hindu scholars were aware of the electricals or some things, but we didn't have the sophisticated formulas. So we took it up from the Greeks or from Mesopotamia or from others. They taught us all these things. But various Sanskrit texts like Aryabhatiya from Aryabhat, Romaka, Panchasindhantika, Khandkhadeyaka, Shishya Vidarika, or Surya Siddhant, they have the chapters, they have the formulas, but what we are doing is not decoding them. One of a formula present in Surya Siddhant is to calculate the longitude of moon. A very clear mathematical formula in Surya Siddhant second 39.4143. It clearly tells us if we know the mean longitude of moon and the longitude of apogee or the apogee and the eclipse of Ephesus, we can find out the longitude of moon. So if this formula was there, that means that our scholars back then knew the mean longitudes of moon, they knew the apogee, they knew the epicycles of the eclipse, right? Why about moon? Because when we look at moon, we see it against a backdrop of a group of stars which we call as nakshatras, right? The constellation groups which we call as nakshatras. These constellations are named on the main star within that constellation group. So the whole of the constellation is named as per the main star. So while traveling on its ecliptic path around the earth and with it around the sun, moon can be seen in against the backdrop of these ecliptically present constellation groups. While doing so, Moon covers some of the constellational main stars more than the others, because these are not very close groups. So the stars are placed at different levels and at different distances. But due to the connectivity in the main star, the whole of the group is named around it. The moon can be seen in the backdrop, with the backdrop of these constellations. But while moving across these constellations, what happens is, due to the ecliptic in the moon, due to the uh, difference in the axis, the movements of the earth, the movement of moon, there's a wobble condition in the moon movements. So sometimes the moon comes very near or crosses some of the constellations nearing its main star, but while covering others it crosses through the constellation but at a distance from the main star, right? When moon crosses a constellation over, through, or covering the main star, such condition is called as occultation. So the moon nearly or completely covers the main star as it is. See, this phenomena is today called as occultation. Now when we look at these occultations, this can be seen, the placement of the nakshatras or the constellational groups along the ecliptic of the moon. So these occultations occur on the stars, on the constellations and the main stars that are within 4 degree to 6 degree of the moon ecliptic. Beyond 6 degrees, the moon does not come near to the main star. Before 4 degrees, it does come near, but the occultation or the complete occultation occurs less. But between the 4 degree and 6 degree spectrum, most of the occultations occur, right? For a main star called Aldebaran, this happens more because it happens when the moon's ascending node is near the autumn equinox. There's another cycle called Maiden cycle of 19 years, which is thought to correlate between the solar and the lunar years. The 19-year cycle, when the solar year and the lunar timings match out with the inclusion of Adhimas or the Kshay Mas. We all must have studied it. It is approximately 18.6 years, or commonly known as 19-year cycle. During this cycle, moon creates 5 occultation cycles of approximately 4 years each, coming exactness to 3.6 to 4.1 years actually. So there are 5 different cycles in a single maiden year. So each constellation cycler, so between the 4 to 6 degree year spectrum, a cycle happens. The other cycles are for the other spectrums. So when we look at a cycle, an occultation cycle for 4 degree to 6 degree, we see that moon covers many of the main stars or comes near many of the main stars during its course. But one such star, which is called Aldebaran, which is situated at 5.47 degrees, gets the most of the occultations. In the last cycle that happened, occultation cluster cycle, that was in 2015 to 2018, moon occulted Aldebaran 49 times, which is far more than any other main star that was occulted by moon, right? The next one is approximately 20 times. So the second level star covered was 20 times covered, but Aldebaran was covered at 49 times, far more difference, right? And this cycle keeps on repeating every 19 year. So after the 19-year cycle is completed, so when the next 4 degree to 60 degree occultation cluster cycle will happen, again the similar kind of coverage will happen, and again Aldebaran will be occulted more, right? So this can be seen from the table that I have presented here. This is from 1978, and there's also calculation for even beyond 2024. So the calculations are present in the table for 2100 years, like till 11 years in 21 series. So when we see in 20,000, 2015 and 2018, nearly 49 occultations has occurred. And in nearly each of the cluster cycles in 4 degree to 6 degree, Aldebaran is occulted more than 40 times, while the star that comes on the second position is covered only up to 22 times. So Aldebaran is covered more. Now, why am I speaking about so much of science and so much of, actually should be saying, for an astrological system, so much of technicalities? Because when we come to mythology, we have heard about the wives of Chandra, the nakshatras, the wives of Chandra, where these nakshatras were daughters of Daksha. Who was Daksha? He was the Prajapati, son of God Brahma. This is what the mythology says. He had many daughters. He had two wives, Askini and Prasuti, many other wives also, but the main ones, Askini and Prasuti. Both of them bore him a huge number of daughters. Different scriptures tell us different numbers, but the majority of the scriptures say about 24 daughters from Prasuti and 60 daughters from Asikni. Right? Some of the notable one are of his daughters are Aditi, Diti, Danu, Swaha, Sati. We have heard these names. These have been wives to many deities. So, what about the 24 daughters and the 60 daughters? Why I'm talking about it is because the mythology says that the 24 daughters of Prasuti were married to deities. We have the names here of the spouse, where Sati married Lord Shiva, Swaha is the wife of Agni, used with various mantras to give homam into the Agni to be sent to the Devas, and so on. Askini had 60 daughters with Daksha. 10 of them were married again to Dharma, 13 to say Kashyapa, and 27 that we call as Nakshatras are known to be married to Chandrama. So Chandrama on its eclipse covers across 27 houses or the mansions that are being called today, or the nakshatras and the constellations in its eclipse. Over the time, the mythology says that over the time, his daughters complained to their father that moon favors one of them most, that is Rohini. Daksha got angry, he cursed moon. Then moon got the Lord Janma got the boon to decrease the impact of the curse, and so on. So the story might have some differences based on the different scriptures, but the generalized story goes like this: that moon, out of his 27 wives, favored Rohini most, and due to this, there was complaint, there were curses, and there were other impacts. Now, what is Rohini? Rohini is what we know today as Aldebaran. It is the brightest star in the cluster of the nakshatra in the Taurus Rashi area. The last cluster that I just told you in the table from 2015 to 2018, moon occulted Rohini 49 times, far more than any constellation or any other star that is covered or occulted by moon. So the moon favors one of his wives, Rohini, most. There are there can be correlations between the curses and the boons and all that. Again, needs even more researches to cover that up into science. But the basic of the mythology is an astronomical event that happens continuously, repeatedly. A similar kind of science coming to it is circumpolar stars. Now, what are circumpolar stars? Circumpolar stars are the stars which can be viewed from particular terrestrial latitudes only, right? And from those latitudes also they are visible for some thousands of years, then they cannot be seen for another thousands of years, then they appear again on those latitudes for another thousands of years, and this cycle goes on. So such appearing and disappearing, or the rising or setting of the stars, is these stars are called circumpolar stars. So if you can see the globe that is showing below, you can see one the position of one of such star which is seen near the poles more. Sorry. So one such star is Canopus. So it is 310 light years away from Sun. It is in brightest star in the southern constellation of Carina, the second brightest star in the night sky. It is currently visible here, but in general it is not visible across the globe because it is in the southern constellation. So it is more visible in the southern globe. During its course of travel, it gets visible in the northern side, then it again disappears from it. That is why it is called a circumpolar star. So it is invisible from much of the northern hemisphere most of the time, much of Europe, US, Canada, Russia, and all those things, because it is a part of the navigational stars in the southernmost group, right? It has a declination of 30 degrees south and 90 degrees south. So it never rises above the horizon in 37 degrees north. So beyond 37 degrees north, it cannot be seen at all the times. But even from till 37 degrees, it acts as a circumpolar. So it is visible for a few thousand years and then disappears again for a few thousand years. This is the image of Canopus taken from the Expedition 6 project. So the table shows the heliacal rising of the Canopus star. So not going into too much science again, it will be too much of technicality. What I am trying to say is that the modern records, they show the Canopus circumpolarity, and just as I told you, it is not visible beyond a certain degree in the northern pointer. So it clearly shows that Canopus cannot be seen beyond Vindhyas in the northern hemisphere, right? Towards the south of India or towards the southern hemisphere of the earth, it can be clearly seen at all times. But beyond the northern part of Vindhyas, it is a circumpolar impact. So currently it is being seen in whole of India. It appeared at Vindhyas in 5200 BC, and it will remain visible till 7400 AD. That is being calculated, and this visibility will then it will become invisible due to the change in its positions or the circumpolarity. For approximately 13,000 years it will remain invisible then, because the circumpolarity of Canopus is approximately 25,770 years or 25,800 years. Another thing that I said about the wobble in the rotation of Earth. Due to that, this kind of circumpolarity of the stars happens. This is a curve of when the Canopus could be seen or can be seen beyond Vindhyas or towards the northern hemisphere, and then it disappears from the northern hemisphere. Agni Puran, Parashar, Aryabhat, and so many classicals have mentioned the mathematics also to calculate these circumpolar stars. Right? There is another research table in the modern science that shows the astronomical data regarding Canopus on the various timings in BCs and ADs when the Canopus rises or it sets even in the northern India for a certain period of time. It can be seen in the middle of August. As of now, occurs in the winter period. It can be clearly seen in the winter skies, and it can be seen at certain latitudes and at a certain height, because it doesn't rise too much above the horizon. It has only a 2 degree or a 2.5 degree rise only. So, not again going into too much technicality, I'll go to the mythological story that we must have all heard about Rishi Agastya and Vindhyachal Parvat. The story goes somewhat like, once Vindhyachal mountains were causing serious problems. They were growing up higher and higher and taller each day. They even were going to cross Himalayas. They were threatening to block the sun as they were gaining the height. They won't listen to anyone. They won't bow down to anyone. They won't listen to anyone's request. So, one of the Saptarishis, Rishi Agastya, was approached. He was the guru of Vindhyas. Upon the request and discussions from everyone, he approached the Vindhya mountains. He asked the Vindhyachal to bow down so he could cross him over to the southern side for pilgrimage, and he ordered him or asked him to remain in the bowed down position till he comes back. And it is said that Rishi Agastya never returned. Now, if we look at the positions of Vindhya or the story, Rishi Agastya is known to bring various knowledge to southern part of India, like the Siddha medicals, the Kallari Pattu, Kallari Chikitsa, Kallari Marm, Tamil grammar, and so much. Right? He is a revered and honored rishi, a part of Saptarishi in our stories. So, looking at the research that has already happened, we can say that this Vindhya Agastya story is at least 21,000 years old. It can be even beyond that, depending on which cycle of Canopus or Rishi Agastya crossing Vindhyas are we talking about, right? There are evidences available now in the modern science that when Agastya crosses Vindhya or it disappears in the northern part from Vindhya, it cannot be seen for approximately 13,000 or more years. So he never returns, can be said for a normal human or nearly a race of a humans, right? Another story that goes with Rishi Agastya, that when once he wanted to cross the ocean, ocean won't allow him. Or another story says that some demons were or asuras were hiding in the ocean, and devas could not enter the ocean to kill them. So in both these stories, Rishi Agastya drank the ocean, or he dried up the ocean into his kamandal, and over the period of time, after some time, he released it. Some story says that with the bringing of Ma Ganga onto the earth through Bhagirath, the oceans were filled again. So there are different kind of stories, but the main story goes as Rishi Agastya drying up the ocean and the oceans filling up again. Now, even today, when Agastya star or Agastya Rishi can be seen from the northern part of India, it is visible now here in our scriptures, in our Panchangas, rising and setting of Agastya is being marked. And what does that denote? When Agastya star rises, it happens nearly, just as I said, that it is mainly visible in the winter sky, in the winters. So water cleansing in the water bodies starts happening naturally, right? And then after the cleansing, the vaporization of the water bodies starts. This happens from the start of September and keeps on happening till the setting of Agastya in approximation of May. After that, the rains start. But that is the vaporization. So what does the vaporization is doing? It is picking up the water from the water bodies, it is drying up the oceans, it is drying up the rivers. And this can again be calculated that if the rising of Agastya is not appropriate astrologically or astronomically, scientifically, it may also mean akal, loss of, that is low vaporization leading to low rains, that may lead to akal also. So the folklore or the mythology of Agastya crossing Vindhyas and never coming back, or him bringing up the ocean, is an environmental or a geographical or an astronomical event that happens, foretold by our scholars, written in our scriptures in a very simple story which can be which could be understood by the layman also. And these stories, and with that, our Vedic science traveled in our memories, in our households, in the stories of our dadis and nanis. So just to take up one other such event, so what is there in space? It is being taught that it is a near perfect vacuum without air. This is what nearly till few years back what the science books in India were being teaching. The science teachers were teaching us. There are radiations there. There is near vacuum. There is no air. Only the stars, the planets, and the galaxies are there. The recent studies show that there are particles of gas, dust, and other matter also, right? And the recent studies and ongoing researches are showing there are presence of air pockets, gases and air pockets, and there is water also present in universe, not just on the comets or the stars or the satellites or the planets, but water. Water, though, what has been found is in the form of vapors. As of now, the researches are ongoing to search the exact water particles, right? On some other day, I would discuss on the mythological story of Garur or the Nag fight or the serpent Rahu, which is again associated with this very science that I am speaking of now. But I won't be taking up this story now. I'll be taking up the other story related to this science. So oceans are the ultimate origin of water here on Earth, and the water is made up of oxygen and hydrogen, the scientific H2O formulation and all that. It is said that hydrogen was created in Big Bang, right? The oxygen was in the cores of the stars. So when the Big Bang happened, when these stars get created, when they are destroyed, this oxygen and these hydrogen mixes up. So water is formed in different forms, in the gaseous form, in the vapor form. It is available, it is present in the nurseries of our galaxies, the nurseries where new stars are still being formed, new planets are still being formed, right? The Hubble space telescope that is present there in the universe for past many decades, it has kept on finding out various nebulas, various galaxies. It has sent information, the photographs, and all that. Those. So, in a near Helix nebula, water molecules were found, hydrogen and oxygen was found, different processes were found due to which such kind of molecules are getting created in the universe, right? So it is not just a simple H2O formulation, but there are different other processes also through which water can be formed. Modern science says that due to the heat from the sun, the earth didn't have the original ocean. It came from the comets that came to the earth, struck the earth, and water was released here. So in the different pictures that I have presented here, these are the pictures from the Hubble Space Telescopes. of different nebulas, of different clusters, which are still forming today. It shows presence of huge amount of hydrogen gas and other molecules, right? And the vapors that are there, the calculation says that even in the single nebula, these vapors or these gases, if they convert to water, can fill up the Earth's oceans 60 times. So there's so much of vapor available there, and different kind of molecules are also available there. The modern science is trying to research, find out various kinds of formulations. These are various other research papers that are being presented by even by NASA or the other projects that are ongoing, right? Which clearly show that water is present in different forms on comets, on satellites, and all other things, and not just on the physical bodies, but separately as vapors in the universe that was said to contain only vacuum. So the cosmic water trail has been uncovered by Herschel, and a new project that was started in the early 2000s. Various photographs and data has been sent. Till date, 3 data sets has been sent by the new project, which clearly shows that the water is present. Herschel had presented it, had found out the vapors back in 1960s, but this is, I'm speechless to say that even till late 1900s, or even in the starting of 2000s and 2010s, we were being taught that there is nothing other than the planets or these celestial bodies, and there's only vacuum in the space. Now, to compare these waters, different kind of compositions are being researched. Different kind of processes are being researched. This can be seen from the table in the bottom right side. So it is not just a simple composition of two hydrogens and one oxygen, but there can be a different kind of composition. In normal language, we call them as heavy water or light water. We find salty water at some places, we find heavy waters at some places, we find normal water at some places. So there can be not just a simple H2A formulation, but a different kind of compositions, and all such different kinds of compositions are being searched in the universe, and some of them are being found with some other compositions not found on Earth, right? Why I'm saying all this is because following this water throughout the solar system, Herschel has found the molecules at various places, right? And with the advancement of technologies, we are finding out water in the black hole areas and in various other places. The air currents is being found. These air currents are the have the link with the Garud story. The interstellar gravity pull has the connectivity with the Nag story, the story of Nag and Garuds having the fight, right? And not just the vacuum in the space. So the mythology behind all this technicality that I was saying is Varaha Avatar, the famous story about Varaha Avatar, bringing the earth from out of the cosmic oceans. Few atheists and few people trying to diminish the glory of our Vedic sciences, saying the oceans are on the earth. So, where from the earth was taken out of. So, the story says that a demon, Hiranyaksh or Hiranyakshu, they were originally the gatekeepers of Lord Vishnu, got the cursed, and then they took the birth as demons. So they kidnapped Bhudevi or Earth, hid her in the cosmic ocean. Manu and Shatrupa, who were the Manus then, they went to the Devas and the Lords. Lord Vishnu took the avatar of a boar or Varha. He searched, killed Hiranyaksha and brought the earth out of the cosmic ocean. The ocean in the cosmos is present. The very simple dictum that our scriptures says, Yatra Pinde Tatra Brahmande. What is present here is there in the whole of cosmos. The rule, the ratios are similar. Look wherever you want to. So there are so many stories of similar lines on the Varaha Avatar also, but basically it depicts that we knew about Bhugol, the roundness of the earth. We knew about the water in the cosmos, not just on earth but on the cosmos, and so much more which is still being researched in the modern science. The whole point or my question of this whole lecture or presentation was that why aren't we as Indians or Bharatvasis not doing the research? And most importantly, why the Vedic science readers, our community, is not considering to research what was lost in time, which was written in our scriptures. Why are we not bringing forward the science that is there in our scriptures? Because by not doing that, we are losing our memories of Shruti and Smriti. We are losing the Vedic memories, the scriptural memories that were there, that is there in our preceding generations. And by not bringing forth the science, we are losing the ultimate actual technology. We have the memory, we have the Smriti, we have the Shruti, we have the people who can correlate science with the stories. We should be bringing them ahead. We should be bringing them forward. There can be so many more stories which I can talk about. I can talk about the Rahu or the serpent movement of the universe, the solar system. It moves in a serpent movement, which is the actual Rahu being said, denoted as the serpent in our scriptures. The serpent being the gravitational pull, because on the fun of the Sheshanag was the earth set down by Varaha Avatar, so it grabbed the earth with its gravitational force and the pull. So the Nagas, the story of Nagas and Garuda, the sun that was covered by Sri Krishna in Mahabharata, was it just a mythology or was it some kind of an eclipse happening? The people ka bhoot or the demon on the people tree. Why is it? Because so many leaves or nearly every leaf of people moves even when there is still air, because it is a 24 by 7 oxygen releasing tree, right? Or why is it said that you can lose your mind, और इन हिंदी इट सेज दैट आपके सिर पर भूत चढ़ जाएगा अगर आप पीपल के नीचे सोएंगे, सो विल हैव a demonic impact on yourself if you start remaining in the vicinity of people. Why? Because that will be intake of too much oxygen, and modern science today proves it. Modern science today knows it. Too much intake of oxygen can make you lose your mental stability, right? Be it the story of Revati, Balram's wife and her father visiting Brahmaji. That is a very clear indication and evidence of time travel, interdimensional travel, time dilations. The story of Rahu and Ketu ग्रसिटिंग द सन एंड द मून. राहु ने ग्रसित कर दिया चंद्रमा को, सूर्य को, देवों को. द स्टोरी अबाउट द अमृत एंड ऑल दैट. Is it not the importance of Rahu and Ketu points? Because without them, the phenomena of eclipse cannot occur. The stories and rituals like safekeeping of the first hair of our children, the naal of our children, today the science is telling that we can save our stem cells, we can do the retention of our stem cells, because that will be because the science can be able to cure any kind of disease or any kind of later mutation that comes into our DNA with the stem cell. Wasn't our dictums, wasn't our scriptures saying that we should be saving our nal, the children, nal of the children, or the first hair of the child, very safely, so that no one else gets the hold of it, because that will be like handing over the DNA of anyone the pure DNA of the child to anyone. The Yati Devyani story, the science today, the astronomical sciences and the research organizations today are checking up the race between the Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxies, and they say that they will collide. There will be collision estimated at 20 billion years ahead, but there's a continuous race depicted as the Yati and Devyani story. So our mythological stories are endless, and so is the concept in our mythological stories that clearly tells us about science, not just astronomical science, because my paper was an astronomical science, so I just said about it, but there is about medical science, there's about behavioral science, about psychology, about geology, about the geographical sciences that we have, about the environment, about the seasons. All these stories being told so easily in our memories through the generations are pure science records. So, the need of the hour is that we should research these mythologies, we should understand the meanings, and as Jyotish teachers, we should forward these scientific knowledge of scriptures to our students, use this knowledge in return to come back to the harmony between the humans and the nature. Obviously, as Kal Desh Kalpat, I'm not saying that we should go back to the caves, but we can build our houses with more of a green cover, with more of environment friendly way. We should be having a harmonious lifestyle, not just for ourselves, but between the humans, the animals, the birds, and all the living beings that are there on earth. This is what our ancient people have been saying. This is what our stories have also told, and this is what even the modern science is not now sorry, finding out with the impacts like the greenhouse impacts and all. So it is very important that we forward our Sanatan Dharma and our stories to the next generation in the new scientific light. Thank you everyone for listening to me. Namaskar and pranams to all my Gurujans and Guru Bhais who have helped me in writing it, and all my Gurujans who have given me the knowledge and the blessing to do something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a very great compilation with lot of illustrations and explaining the astronomy relating to Vedic stories and mythology. And now I request Chari sir to sum up the session.
Any questions?
No question, sir. One question is there. Our other culture, it is from Arpit Pathak. Are other cultures also supporting our theory in one form or the other?
Yes, exactly.
Uh, Sorry, I got disconnected. Can you please repeat the question,
Yes,
please?
sir. One question is from Arpit Pathak ji. Are
Okay.
other cultures also supporting our theory in one form or the other?
Yes, there are many cultures that support this. The Greek mythology contains it, the Roman mythology contains it, even many Western mythologies do say about it. But the problem in those stories are they are only on the mythological part. When we call about even for a simple saying about the names of the weeks, the construction of the weekly format from Somvar to Mangalwar and so on. There are stories in the mythologies from other cultures, but the actual science or the scientific system is available in the Vedic sciences, where it is clearly explained within our scriptures and told as mythology.
Thank you, sir. I hope it's clear for him. And no other questions, sir.
Just to add, even the stories that I have talked about today have the mythological, similar kind of stories in the Greek and Roman mythological pointers.
No other questions, sir.
Thank you. Cool. How?
I request.
Hmm.
Yeah, I request Chari sir to say a few words.
वो तो बोल दिया आपने पहले ही, don't worry. See, I have been listening for the past 1.5 years, 1.5 hours also. Today I never felt tired about astronomy.
Yes.
If astronomy is to be taught, that is a special subject for Dhirendra. Adding spice to the topics so that we eat and digest the subject matter of topic. Every lecture is coupled with some Puranic stories as to how this has happened. See, whatever he has been telling so far, I found the Panchatatvas were brought into focus. How, without the 5 types of elements, one cannot survive. So, also, the science of astronomy have to survive only by improvement in the 5 elements, whether it is space or water, whether it is air or earth or ether. Ether is developed for digital science. Air for LPG, SPG, GB, GU, BBs. In the modern world, how the Panchatatvas have helped people live in an environment so that they gain. This is what Purana's background. In a very normal, simple way, things are explained so that people who can do research and then elicit further information, they can do. The rishis have never told what is the aim of this particular background, but our research, ongoing research, whatever we have done, the scientists have done, the astronomers have done, psychologists have done, etc., have given rise to fund of information how rich is our Puranas, how rich our Upanishads. We have not been able to decode, as he rightly said, each and every sloka. There is a word anuchara. Anuchara have been following. But if we follow what has been told and develop it further, then only you are a real anuchara. If we simply read, it is not going to give you the information. What we saw today in today's lecture is these slokas or the stories were decoded into astronomical background. How the entire human life centers around the five elements, and if anything is missing, the human life is in danger. This is what today's lecture can be summed up. We need everything, but in a right measure. So the way in which it has been explained, if further explored, as I rightly said, give him one more opportunity whenever it is possible for you. Some more matters could be highlighted where the predict side of astrology could be taken instead of astronomy alone. Because astronomy is relevant to astrology as far as our subject matter is concerned. And topics like occultations are taboo to certain people. Will never look into, will just listen, find out if any question has come on that, and then try to answer it. Astronomy for the first semester, after that, hardly anybody has touched it. You or me, or that matter anybody, because we are not used to that. But V.P. Jain used to say that he is an MA in astronomy. And he has written books. He is no more with us, but however, his books are there with us. Dr. R. N. Vasisht, astrophysicist, our faculty member. Astronomy, you may master. You have to learn a lot of things. How this name Nakshatra was given, he used to say in the class. Occultation. You must give him 3 hours to explain what is occultation, not 1 day or 1 hour. Because he's an astrophysicist. So he has got fund of information with him. And that too, in those days, he used to bring the pictures. Today you got computer, etc. But he used to bring the pictures and show to us on the board. Look at this is how it is. That's how it explanation. But if we, in the chapter level, could discuss this pictorially, astronomy could be a loving subject for all. Thank you, Dhirender. Thank you, Sarita, for an opportunity to talk on this floor. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dhanyavad.
God bless you.
Thank you. So I thank our esteemed guest, Honorable National Vice President Shri K.R. Chari sir. I thank our resource person, Mr. Dhirendra Vadhwa, Chapter Chairman of Ghaziabad, for sharing his valuable insight on science of astronomy with a lot of images, Vedic stories, quotes, and also research papers. And I thank entire COE team for organizing this event. And finally, my heartfelt thanks to all those who have made this event successful. Thank you very much.